What is up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I am Jeff Hartman, joined as always by Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. Dave, what's going on?
Oh, just rolling on towards the draft. We are 3 weeks away from things right now. The draft won't have started at this time, but we'll be all amped up, ready to go and see what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Bryan Davis, welcome to the show.
I'm wet, guys. April showers bring soggy shoes and mock drafts.
If we could not say that ever again, that would be fantastic. Like that.
I have to ask, did you guys have accumulating hail today at your houses?
No.
I had accumulating hail at my house.
Nice.
That I could go out and measure how deep the hail was.
How deep was it?
I mean, I didn't go out and measure, but I could have. I didn't want to step outside.
Oh, okay. No, I did not have that today. Thank goodness. But we've had a lot of rain here in the Mid-Atlantic. We'll put it that way. And crazy weather all over the place. I know the Northeast was getting pummeled with snow.
Did you?
So
did you see the pictures at Acrisure?
Acrisure almost underwater. I know PNC Park, like the river's up, the river walk behind PNC Park. It's crazy, and the rivers haven't even crested yet. My family in Wheeling, they're keeping an eye on the river, the Ohio River that runs right by Wheeling, West Virginia, through it really. They're keeping an eye on those river floods because it hasn't even crested yet, even though it stopped raining. So it's going to be crazy here in the next couple of days, but we're here to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're here to talk all about jersey numbers, because who doesn't want to talk about jersey numbers? Like, that's what everyone wants to talk about, is freaking jersey numbers. Well, I know one person on our show loves talking jerseys and jersey numbers. That's Bryan Davis. First, before I throw it to Bryan and get his takes on how many of these new jerseys he's going to be buying off of the boat from China, let's first go over the jersey numbers. Justin Fields, not wearing 5. They did the old pump fake. He's wearing number 2. He's taking Mason Rudolph's old number. Russell Wilson, he's picking up where Jeff Reed left off with number 3. Kyle Allen, number 4. Who was the last number 4 that the Steelers have had? That I probably should know this, but I can't think of anyone.
Weasel Boy, right?
Who?
Weasel Boy.
Oh my gosh, that's why.
I don't know if he's the last one, but he was number 4.
Kyle Allen. He kind of looks like Weasel Boy.
Yeah.
Trace McSorley officially was number 4.
Well, on the practice squad, does it count if it's
no?
You have to play in a regular season, be active for a regular season game for it to count.
So Kyle Allen's number 4. Cameron Johnston is number 5. Patrick Queen gets the single digit 6. Van Jefferson is number 11. He's picking up that retreaded number, which that's not a very good number to have, in my opinion. Quez Watkins gets 16. Can't think of the last 16 the Steelers have had. Deshaun
Elliott.
I always think of Charlie Batch.
Lance Moore.
Yeah. Deshaun Elliott rocking the Ron Clark 25. Dante Jackson pulling out the Anthony McFarland 26. Cordero Patterson gets Antonio Brown's 84, which AV was not very happy about on social media. And Dean Lowry gets the Tyson Alualu 94. So, Bryan, any of these numbers mean anything to you outside of what we just talked about?
Actually, no. There's, you know what? Yeah. 84. I'd love to see somebody else wearing the 84. I didn't know until right now that AB was not happy with the 84. That makes me even more ecstatic.
What? He wasn't hurt by Rico Bussey?
Yeah, Rico, and wasn't Tyler Vaughn's, or no, was he 80?
He was 18, wasn't he? Wasn't Vaughn's 8? No, he wasn't 18.
No, he had a number in the 80s.
81 maybe.
The funny thing about the jersey, so there's 2 jerseys that I messed with that I have, and you will just laugh. I took the nameplates off of Devin Bush and Chase Claypool. So I've got Penn State Steeler number 11s and 55s. So I have a Holcomb without the name, and I've got, last year I had a Robinson without the name, and now it looks like I have a who got that again?
Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson, yeah.
I've got a Jefferson without the name on the back.
So, Bryan,
maybe I could have a Patterson Bumblebee. Wow.
Hey, they come off. I'll show you how to take them off. They come off real easy.
Which of these jerseys, Bryan, if you were buying one, would you get?
I've already put in for a 3 and a 6.
So you got a Russell Wilson and a Patrick Queen.
Yeah, they're on their way.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And I almost pulled the trigger on a number 1 Fields, and I took it back, and then the other day I almost hit send on a number 5 Justin Fields, and
Oh my gosh.
I held back. So good thing I did.
He showed restraint.
Yes. I get these so cheap though, man. So cheap.
Like
I didn't even
said,
show you my latest. I have 2 Jalen Warrens now.
2 Jalen Warrens?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I bought one for my nephew, and it was the wrong size. So I kept that for myself. And so I have a color rush and a regular one.
All right. Dave, what about you? These numbers mean anything to you?
Yeah, well, I got to clean up a few things. Well, first of all, since Jordan Berry, wearing number 4 was Dustin Colquitt in 2020. And then 2 different players wore it in 2022 in Matthew Wright and Nick Skiba.
Ah.
The kickers.
Okay.
Who was the last quarterback? Because Zoltan Mesko was number 4. Who was the last quarterback to wear number 4 for the Steelers? That's an easy one. Really? You don't know? I actually do this one without looking it up.
I don't.
Come on, anyone?
Wait, Palco. Tyler Palco.
Nope.
No.
It's Shane Falco.
Shane Falco. Come on, guys. It's Byron Leftwich.
Oh, that's right. Byron was number 4, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He wore 4?
He was. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Well, hey, now here's what's crazy. If you look at number 2, like you go down the quarterback list of number 2. So we have Mace, right? Mm-hmm. And then who are the quarterbacks other than that wore it? Because there's a couple that are a little bit less known.
Dennis Dixon.
Yes.
Vic.
Yes.
Michael Vick.
St. Pierre.
Yeah, there's the other one. Brian.
Oh, yeah, Pierre. He was more recently.
20 years ago, but
yeah.
20 years ago.
That's recent.
Quarterback.
What were the other?
There another one? I don't know if there was.
No, those were the big ones that I was thinking. Dennis Dixon, Brian St. Pierre, Michael Vick. They all wore number 2. Mace, obviously.
Yeah.
Landry Jones, did he wear 2?
He wore 3.
3. That's
because I wore my Jeff Reed jersey when Landry Jones had a great game in a week 17, and Jeff yelled at me and said, "You're just wearing a Jeff Reed jersey."
I yelled at you?
Yeah. That was before podcast time, but that was
but
because I was
between Landry Jones and Russell Wilson, there were 2 other number 3s in there. That was Matthew McCrane and Brad Wing. Brad Wing was this year. We talked about that several weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, someone also brought up that 16, Quez Watkins. Last year was Miles Jack. I forgot all about
That's
that.
Right.
Miles Jack was number 16.
And wasn't
I want to bring up something interesting now. Go ahead, Brian.
There was a defensive back that wore number 16. It wasn't Trenton Thompson, but it was somebody wore 16. Like in that, right. I remember that Bills debacle. It was a cornerback.
Bills debacle
of Kenny Pickett's first game.
I'll find it. You're right. I remember. Who was it that was back there? It was someone that was just that was filling in.
I wanted to say Trenton Thompson, but I know it wasn't him.
Josh Jackson. That was the name.
Yeah.
He was a cornerback. Yeah. He even started the one game in there. Yep.
There you go. I do have a correction. Not really a correction, but remember when I was talking about Justin Fields and possibly wearing the number 1 and all of that, and we talked about the last time the number 1 was worn. Now it was brought to my attention, and this is true. But in preseason, somebody else wore number 1 and it was a quarterback. And who went on to prominence not prominence, but to start with some other teams, namely the Dallas Cowboys. But Anthony Wright, when he was in Pittsburgh, was the last one to have number 1.
Wow.
But he never played in a regular season game.
Doesn't count.
That was about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who was the most famous 16 for the Steelers? Or you could argue fame, but
I think it's Charlie Batch. When I did Dynasty, was always Charlie Batch.
I would think it's Charlie Batch, but You got a different quarterback in there that you could say instead.
Oh, Mark Malone.
You could say Mark Malone, first quarterback I remember of the Steelers.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about this, but there's one thing I want to say about the numbers. Couple things, actually. Well, first of all, I did the article. Jeff said just throw a couple words in there. I did a lot more than that. I did some research with it. You're welcome, Jeff. I'm sure you read it thoroughly. I actually looked at what players kept their now have a number that they've kept their entire career with the number that was announced today with the Steelers. So they've never worn any other number. There was Russell Wilson. There's three others.
Has Cameron Johnson always been 5?
He is not. He was number 11 in Houston and number 1 in Philly.
Patrick Queen.
No, Patrick Queen was actually number 48 his rookie year.
Yeah, then they let him do single digits after that.
And I'll go ahead and throw that there. Quez Watkins was 16, except not in his rookie year. I think he was 80. So
Deshaun Elliott always been 25?
Deshaun Elliott has had a different number with every team he's been on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cordero
Patterson's always been 84. Dante Jackson's always been 26. And Dean Lowry's always been 94.
Cool.
Well,
so, good little
yeah, like care. But to me, here's another one that I find interesting because I was listening to some stuff. I was actually trying. I'm backlogged on podcasts, and I didn't actually get the Here We Go the Steelers show until today, and it was something that Bryan and Kevin were talking about on there. Notice the Steelers didn't issue number 20. It's still out there. Wonder if they're saving it for anybody from last year.
I think they are. I think they already. I think
Jim doesn't know who we're talking about. You remember number 20 was last year?
Patrick Peterson?
Yeah, it was Patrick Peterson.
Yeah.
I think Patrick Peterson, just for the fact that Mike Tomlin said it could happen, but later on in the process, if they didn't think it was going to happen, I don't think he would have ever even said that.
Yeah.
That's a really anti Tomlin thing to say. That's odd for him to even say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask Bryan a question because Dave and I are kind of like, yeah, it's just a number. Bryan, you were the one that said this is more than a number. If the Steelers give Justin Fields number 1, like it's significant, just like Patrick Queen getting a single digit is significant to some people. So they gave him 2. What does that tell you? Anything?
It tells me that they are not letting him hold the cards. They are not letting him dictate the situation. And maybe they have a conversation that, hey, if you become the number 1 guy, maybe we'll dust it off and let you switch over to number 1. But you would have think if they wanted to appease him, then they would have done that. Now, I'm also almost thinking that if he came in as a free agent, maybe they would have felt more compelled to give him number 1. But by giving them the number 1, I would have felt that it was more of a dedication to him. And now it's just we'll wait and see what happens, Justin.
Okay.
That's what's going on in my head.
And just why did they not give out number 1? I have people saying, why won't they do that because of Gary Anderson? It's not because of Gary Anderson, is it?
No, it has nothing to do with Gary Anderson. It's just, it's the symbolism of number 1. I don't think they want to give it out, just like they haven't given out 0 since 1948. 0 and 00 to Johnny Clement. It was the same guy. He was a quarterback, by the way. But the thing about this is the reason they don't do it now is they also like to give out that number 1 on draft day and have them hold it up.
That's what I was going to say. Well, I saw tons of number 1s on X today of seeing the old Trent Jordan Watt wearing a number 1 jersey. Do you really want to take pictures with your first round draft pick in a number 1 jersey when somebody else wears number 1 on the team?
Yeah. So I almost
I don't know
feel
if it's
they did it with Ben too. There was a
Yeah.
bobblehead of Ben with number 1.
Yeah.
So many people we've seen wearing that number 1 in that situation. I don't know if that's why they want to do it. They're kind of old school in a lot of in some things. They don't like giving out that single digit number to other players, to other position players. That's something they don't like. I figured there's a lot of people that thought that Joey Porter Jr. was going to get 5 last year because he liked because he wore a single digit before. He couldn't get 9 because of Boswell. And they thought, well, hey, go ahead and give him number 5, was what a lot of people thought because his dad was 55. But they went with Uncle Ike in 24. Yeah, numbers don't matter to a lot of people. To me, I think it's symbolism. Jeff, did you wear number 21 when you played baseball or something?
Yeah, in high school, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you know why I know that? One, because you told me, but I believe one of your email addresses used to have 21 on it.
Yes.
So it means something to you. Just like my fraternity number meant something to me. Right. I used to have Bryan 280 all the time, or bad 280, because I loved the number 280 because of it. Because that was my fraternity number. That was my 3-digit number. And I would put 280 on everything. So numbers mean something to a lot of these guys. My gosh, if you remember Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes in the movie The Fan, my gosh, they killed over that number. A guy got murdered over his number. So I mean, yeah, it kind of means a lot to a lot of people in a lot of places. So Steelers don't quite care about it. I think it's kind of more of a, hey, it's more of a team thing. But the Steelers protect certain numbers. Nobody has had 52, like nobody has had 58. No one's had 32. No one's had 12, 36, 43, and 86 so far. The one number that you can't get either is 59, but one guy, Todd Seabaugh, got it in 1984, a year after Jack Ham retired. But now they're not giving it out. Now they pulled back on that one. But so they hold some of these precious because they're on a list of, hey, we'll retire these guys someday.
Yeah. And for those wondering, number 21 was donned by me for 4 years of high school baseball because of the great Roberto Clemente, the greatest baseball player, all around baseball player to ever live, in my opinion.
Did you? But you got to pick your number, right?
I got lucky as a freshman when I got moved up to varsity that no one was 21, and then I just kept it because as a returning player, you got to choose then. Yeah.
So see, I generally, like with other sports, I never got to pick my number. I was assigned a number for football. I was number 76. I was in college for college with track and field. I mean, we had a bag, and there was assigned a number, but you never had anything on it as any kind of jersey. I was 13, but I didn't pick it. You know what the numbers are used for? To identify your belongings or the player when they're on the field. That's really the only point. And when I was playing softball, I picked my number, and it was for a reason. I was number 55. I was the speed limit. So when fast guys were on behind me, they could see that number and know they needed to slow down.
Now, when I played softball, 21 was taken. I had to choose 7. So I chose 7.
Okay.
Which 7 in numerology is one of the most perfect numbers. So
yes. I chose 13 all the time, and that was my last Little League number.
Okay, is it just me or is this conversation gone on way too long now?
Well, I do want to bring up one thing before we take a quick break, and that is the news. This happened, I think, last Friday. I don't think I've heard anyone else talk about it, but the Steelers announced their dates for spring workouts. I mean, This is when it all comes back. This is when you start seeing the team together, whether it's for workouts, you start seeing little videos and snippets and pictures on Twitter. April 15th is when the Steelers get back into their phase 1 of off-season workouts, which is just working out. Okay, that's just lifting weights, working with the conditioning team, hopefully avoiding the groin injuries and the pulled hamstrings that we suffered last season. And then in phase 2 is when they can start doing football-like activities. But again, no coaches are there or anything like that. Phase 3 is when you actually get into OTAs. And OTAs starts on Tuesday, May 21st, 1 of 10. And mandatory minicamp is June 11th, 12th, and 13th. So that's exciting. I'm always excited for the spring workouts. It means they're getting back to it. They're getting back to it. What, Dave?
There's only 2 possible dates for rookie mini camp: the first weekend in May or the second. That's all the NFL. That's the date set by them. And the Steelers typically are the second one in May. Nothing's been announced with that. But I could tell you, if you didn't know about the April 15th date, I had that date on my countdown article 2 days after the Super Bowl was done. So that it was the first day that the teams could. So it made sense that that's when they're starting.
If they have a new coach, they can start earlier. That's
They could have
why,
started.
Falcons,
They could have started Monday.
Yeah, the Falcons, Chargers, all these teams that have new head coaches have already started their offseason workouts. So there you go. All right, Bryan, anything to add for that before we take a quick break?
Nope.
All right, very good. Not the best color man in the league for nothing, folks. So we're going to take a break on the audio side for those watching live on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. We're not going anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Second half after we got through all the numerology and the jersey number stuff. Dave was the one that thought of the topic this week, and it's all about the NFL draft and what's on the table. Dave, go ahead. Lead us into this topic.
Well, it's what's off the table.
Correct.
Is anything off the table for the draft? Now, there's 2 different ways to look at it. You can look at it positionally, which will probably be the second thing we look at. The first thing is you got to look at it when it comes to moving around. Is anything off the table for the Steelers, do you think, when it would come to trading picks, which could even include trading a pick away that they don't get it regained this year?
Are you talking about just during the draft, or are you talking about maybe pulling
you can
trade
even look, you can
prior
look
to the
high,
draft?
low, however you want to do it. I feel like I just asked a trivia question.
No, I'm thinking. I mean,
I know.
I think trading either way is on the table during the draft. My question and my hesitation is, do I think they could potentially trade a pick away this year prior to the draft? Meaning, let's just throw a name out there. It's hypothetical. I have no inside information. Let's just say the Steelers say, we want Brandon Ayuk and we're going to trade for him. So what would it take? And let's say it takes a second round draft pick. All right. So then in that case, I don't know if I could see that happening. We're less than 3 weeks exact away from the draft. I don't know if I see that happening. Bryan, what do you think?
I don't think that would happen, but it's definitely possible. So, I mean, I know that's a cop-out answer, but yeah,
No,
I would not go ahead and bet on that either. But
it's not off the table, right?
No, I think the only scenario, I don't think there's any trade scenarios really off the table when you're talking about going up, going down, trading one of next year's picks, acquiring one of next year's picks. That's all a possibility. I don't know what talent they really have to trade right now, because I don't think DeMarvin Leal is really. I don't think he's a guy that teams are really seeking. I don't know if he is, and that's nothing against him. I just with the way he was used and played last year, I don't know if he would be traded. So I don't think they're in a position to trade away. So if I said that there was something that I don't think would happen, I don't see them trading away talent for a pick.
Okay. Because now I have a question. Do you see the Steelers, would it be off the table? You know, we said they could trade up if there's someone they really want. I mean, last year they moved up a little bit to go get it. It's not like we thought for sure the Steelers were going to trade up, but they saw something. The deal was right, and they did it. Fans have been clamoring to trade back for a very long time, and the Steelers have not done it in the first round for a very, very long time. Casey Hampton was the last one. Would it be off the table, or how do you guys feel about what if the Steelers traded completely out of the first round? That they traded back so far that their first pick was not even on day one.
So give me a scenario. What compensation would they be getting for their 20th overall pick and to leave the first round altogether?
That's a great, let's say they end up with pick 34, 35. And of course, they're going to be having to get, someone else that moved up 14 or 15 spots. I don't know what else they would possibly get, because I don't know what else those teams would even have. What would it take for that to happen?
Shoot, it's going to be a lot. It would have to be for the Steelers to lose a first round pick. So we're going to give up pick 20. And even if we go to 34, there's got to be more. I vacated the first round, the top echelon talent.
Gave up the 5th-year option.
Yeah, exactly. I gave up all that. I need something. So maybe it's a team that has 2 second-round picks, in which case then the Steelers would have 3 picks in the second round. Then maybe we're talking. But now that you mentioned up the 5th-year option aspect, which I did not think about, that's difficult. That's a difficult decision. Dave or Bryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're looking at, so if you trade out of the first round altogether, I think they're more likely to trade deep into the first round and stay in the first round. But if you trade out of it, you're probably looking at a number 2 and probably a number 4 with it. So that means you would have 2 2s and another 4.
So here's
I would have to do more than a 4.
But
me,
that's
it would have to. It would
I think
have
that's
to be
what the formulas would be.
It would have to be like, let's say they were drafting in the first 3 spots of each round. It would have to be probably their second and their third. I mean, honestly,
look at the
that's
screen,
the one
Dave.
I thought of. Or what about somebody's number 1 next year?
That's what's on the screen. Vegas TJG. That's a mouthful. It says Tennessee's pick number 38, their second rounder this year, and next year's first. So you would have 2 first-round picks in the 2025 draft, and you get pick 38. I'd probably
you're going down 18 spots.
Yeah.
You would have 2 seconds, 2 thirds.
The way to think about it for next year, just like Isaiah Loudermilk, what you have this year equates in 1 round higher next year. So in other words, next year's first round pick would be equivalent to a second round pick this year, is the way it generally works in trade value.
Yeah. That's tough. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't still wouldn't call it off the table. But
I'm going to go on record.
You got to trust Omar Khan that he's going to get a good deal if he moves.
Shoot. I'm going on record right now saying he's moving up in the first round. I guarantee. I don't know what makes me. I've again no inside information, but I just think this guy says if we have someone that we want, we're gonna go get him. We're not gonna sit back on our hands and say, "Man, I hope this guy pans out." They've got that 3rd round draft pick. They've got a couple 6th round picks. They could easily say, "Look, we want to move up because we want that guy. Whether that guy's a center, an offensive tackle, whatever, wide receiver, even they go get him. Go get him. If he's a difference maker." Go get him. I think the Steeler fan base has been kind of stunned because really the last time they made a significant move was for Devin Bush, and that did not pan out. But last year they moved up. I don't think people were upset that they did that for Broderick Jones. Was anyone here upset that they did that?
They didn't give up very much.
No, they didn't give up much at all.
They got the pick back when they moved back and still got Washington.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what that's the way I view Omar Khan in a vacuum as to how he's going to manipulate the system. I might move up in the first round. I'm going to move around in the later rounds and try to regain that pick and try to make things work. I think they got really lucky last year that Darnell Washington fell as far as he did and that Nick Herbig was there when he was. And the way that they manipulated things, I think they traded with the Carolina Panthers, didn't they? Wasn't that how they recouped that pick?
Yes.
Okay.
That is true.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, I think trades are absolutely on the table, both directions. Yeah. And it's going to make for fun. It's going to make it fun.
Well, then let's talk positions. I'm going to say this right now. Remember, the Steelers do not have a 7th round pick.
Right.
So I'm going to say this right now. Their 3 specialist positions should be off the table of taking one in the draft. Because, I mean, I understand if you want to take a flyer on someone in the 7th round, we don't need another 6th round long snapper, especially when you just signed yours for 3 years, although very small signing bonus and league minimum every year. You just signed a new punter, and you've got Chris Boswell. So that, to me, specialists, especially not having a 7th round draft pick, should be off the table. Is that a fair assumption?
Agreed.
Yes. Okay. All right, I don't know if there's anything else.
I do. I have one.
I have one as well, but I'll
Jeff, you go first.
I was going to say tight ends off the table, unless a Brock Bowers, which Bryan brought up with Kevin in his Here We Go show, if he falls to 20, and Kevin said, "I'm running to the podium. I'm picking up the phone and
Yeah.
trading, like Bryan suggested, but that's just me.
Yeah.
According to the Around the 412 podcast, which is a part of Fans First Sports Network, Pat Fryermuth was on their show recently and said that he loves it in Pittsburgh. He wants to stay. I want him to stay. I like Pat Fryermuth a lot. If he can stay healthy and has a good quarterback, I think he can be very, very good for the Steelers long term. So I'm going to say
it would
tight
have to
end.
be something really special, right? In order to
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and I also don't think Bowers is going to sniff pick 20, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I said tight end. Bryan, were you thinking another position?
I was thinking tight end as well.
Okay, I have one. Someone else brought it up. Okay,
let
go ahead.
me finish
You have another
here,
one? Okay.
No, I was going to finish with my tight end thing and the whole Bowers talk. Actually, Jeff, you kind of misquoted me a little bit because I gave you guys credit for that to go ahead and pick up the phone, because I'm kind of like Kevin. I'm running to pick up Bowers. But now I definitely saw now I agree with what you say, because you can go ahead and pull somebody in for them. But if he's around 20, I would be absolutely shocked, or he's got a crazy Laramie Tunsil situation going on 2 minutes before the draft starts. So that's about it. The other position, I don't think it's off the table, but I just don't think that they are looking defensive line that heavily right now.
See, if you want to say defensive line, I would say, well, I don't know. If the right guy's there at 20 and they think they're getting a huge value, they'll do it. That they would take a value pick on defensive line anytime, in my opinion. I would prefer them not address that until day 3, but I can't say it's off the table. I think running back should be off the table.
Yeah.
Now that you have Cordero
Patterson, I agree.
Because
I agree with running back. Yeah. I'm going to go with one. This is just the draft. So this is just off the table in the draft. I would say a pass rusher, edge. I would have that off the table too, based on the fact that with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, you have entrenched starters, Nick Herbig year 2. What I want to see them do is bring back Marcus Golden. So then you have your same 4 you had last year. They all fit. They all work well together. They can move them in and out. They can swap sides if they have to. But I just don't see them needing to take a selection on a pass rusher at this time. So I that's for me. You all might disagree.
I was close to going there.
I'll put an addendum on that one.
Okay.
Outside linebacker, the first 2 days.
Yeah.
There's no
if it's
reason.
If it's a day 3, you have a guy
if they got somebody they really like and think could be a good special teamer or something like that, or they'd like to see if they could develop them as one of their 6th-round picks, I'm okay with that. But I don't want to see them wasting one of their higher. I don't want to say wasting. No. Using one of their higher draft picks on a position that they're looking pretty good at.
Bring in Bud Dupree for a 1-year deal. Okay, like what the hell? Like let's find a free agent that has a little bit more to it than a rookie, especially if it's a day 3 rookie. You know the Steelers aren't going to trust him out there. So what are we doing? Like, let's get players that can come and play. And so that's why I would say on the draft, I would have outside linebacker or edge off the board, off the table.
Yep.
Bryan?
I can go with that.
Yeah, I am completely on board with both of you on that. I was actually thinking of talking about edge rusher, but I went the other direction in defensive lineman. But no, I'm with you on that. And there's late rounds, maybe. Yeah, that's when you kind of take flyers and figure those things out there. I mean, a quarterback could be in that situation late.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other positions that y'all can think of? I'm trying to think of. Well, I was going to say safety, but I really hope that's not the case, because DeMonte KZ sticking around makes me wonder what the Steelers are thinking. Because they could have cut him. They could have saved some money. They chose not to. They did the injury release of Keanu Neal. But, man, I would love for them to address safety outside of Deshaun Elliott. I just don't know if they're going to. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Just a gut.
We'll get some of those signings during the draft or the couple days after.
Yeah.
You know, that'll cover some other things. But to me, another one I have off the table is a player, if all they can do, if they don't have the position versatility, where they only play guard. Now, I'm okay if with someone, even some people say, no, even the first round, like a Graham Barton, that might end up being his best position might end up being guard, The Steelers think that he might be the best center they can get. And then if something happens where you can't sign James Daniels again or whatever, and he has to slide to there, was that you talking about that, Jeff, on Let's Ride? Or someone was talking about it in the podcast this week? I'm okay with that. But if it's someone who is just a guard, that's one that I would say, if it's a guard center, that's fine. Guard tackle, that's okay too. But just strictly a guard, I would stay away. And which didn't they bring in someone today that was a guard, but he was maybe a guard from Oregon, but he's maybe someone that could even be tackle. I don't know if they were looking at him at center or not. But I think if it's someone that can't do anything other than guard, I don't know that they need that.
Bryan, can you think of any other positions?
I like what you're saying on guard. That makes so much sense. And as we heard from Jeff the other day, it seems like Graham Barton's a guy that they do like, but he was definitely a hybrid position. He's definitely a hybrid there. There's nowhere else that I'm really looking at here because, corner and inside linebacker, they're not off the table. I think we've touched everything.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right.
See, and I'll continue to say this about offensive linemen. I value offensive linemen that can play multiple positions because I think that just proves that they're a better lineman. That if you're stuck, like you can only play one side, and you're really stuck in one position. I just think that for what the Steelers want to do and the things that they're asking you to do, they want guys that are position flexible because they're not going to always necessarily want you to do what the stereotypical guard does every single play. They might want you to, their guard might be asked to do something you might ask a tackle to do, or vice. Or pulling their centers, which a lot of teams don't do. Things like that. That's why you look at that. And to me, I just say any offensive lineman that can play multiple positions, that just kind of shows their understanding enough of the game that they can. And that's honestly the biggest knock of, I'm not as down on him as everybody else, but that's one thing that really drives me nuts about Dan Moore Jr. I'm like, if he was really that good of an offensive lineman, he should be able to play either side.
Right. And then when you think about Graham Barton, in which case anyone that's hearing Dave talk about, like, Jeff, didn't you mention that? If you listen to my Wednesday Let's Ride podcast on the audio side, had a lot of inside information. He is their top rated center/interior offensive lineman. Not only did the dude play tackle, he can play guard, he can play center. He went to Duke. He's intelligent. He's smart. He's position flexible. Have you all seen his RAS score, his raw athletic score?
You said 10? It was what, 9.99 or something like that?
9.99. So the dude is an athlete. So I already sent Coach KT Smith a text and said, he's on vacation right now. So when you get back, I want a breakdown of this guy because the Steelers like him. And I want you to look at the film and tell me, how does he fit? And what does that look like? So he's going to do that when he gets back from vacation. But still, it's interesting how you look at position flexibility and how this weighs in. Mike Tomlin loves guys that can play multiple positions. He loves guys that can do that. He always has. So, all right, this has been a good little exercise about being on things that are off the table prior to the draft. Anything else?
Can I ask one last question about it?
Yeah, do it.
Is there anything you would say that is off the table specifically day one of the draft? Just looking at the first round.
Positionally.
Yeah.
Because I already said I'm cool with trading either way.
Yes.
So, yeah, positionally, I would say
we already know outside linebacker and some of the other ones.
Well, it's probably easier for me to say the positions I'm okay with them taking in round one. Offensive tackle, center, wide receiver, and cornerback. Those four positions, if they take them in round one, I'm all for it.
Bryan?
I'd go crazy if they took a running back. Like, and we already took it off the table. I mean, I would be nuts. Unless it's Brock Bowers, you don't. I mean, I think tight end is completely off the table this year because I really like that room, and I think Rodney Williams is a clear number 4 in that room.
To me, like Jeff, I like your list, but I don't want a wide receiver in the first round. I really don't.
I'm fine with it.
Well, if he's a playmaker, if he's a guy that can do it all,
if
he's that type of guy, I'm fine with it. But I'm leaning towards the trenches more.
I am too, just because I feel like there'll still be options for the Steelers later at wide receiver. And I'm just like, you guys know, I'm not on the train of, oh, the Steelers, they can draft a wide receiver whenever they want to, and they're going to turn out great. I don't, they do better than other teams, but nothing is guaranteed when it comes to the NFL draft. But to me, I would hate, when it really comes down to it, if the center that you need for the future is there and you want to draft him at 20, I don't know that it's the best value, but I will say do it. I would love to have the offensive tackle, but I still think that's a luxury upgrade pick. And if they're not going to go early with it, the first couple picks that they have, I don't even care if they address it at all. But some people don't believe it. But if the right cornerback is there, I'm okay with that one too. So those are my three that I would prefer. But
let me say something about.
I'm just
yeah. Let me say something about something you said. So you said value. It's not the highest value, right? So this was something Scott Kennedy covers the Atlanta Falcons for Fans First Sports Network, but he also covers the NFL draft, does a lot of work. He's in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. And we did a podcast on the NFL feed for Fans First. And he said about values, you know what I hate about that term? He said, that's only one person's opinion of the value. Yeah. He said, so you might hear a Daniel Jeremiah or a Mel Kiper Jr. or a Todd McShay back when he was with ESPN say, that's poor value in their opinion. He said, so even if a center, if that's what you value the most, then that's not a poor value pick. That's a great value pick because you value that the most. It's just one person's opinion. So I think that it's important when people hear these draft nicks talk. And even if you're talking to Jeremy Betts and Andrew Wilbar of Steel Curtain Network, and you hear them maybe say, oh, there was better value he had, which you're going to hear that with every single selection across the board, not just with our stuff, but everyone. That's only their opinion. The Steelers might value that position, that player, their whatever they bring to the table way more than anyone else. And that's, as Dave always said, that's what we should care about the most.
And it comes back to the fantasy draft mentality. Like, although, you know, I used to do a lot with football, I used to be in an in-person baseball draft for years, which I don't do anymore because the only reason I was watching baseball for a while was because of this league. But there would be a time where you'd be coming through and you're like, man, there's a lot of good outfielders. I pick now and then I pick again in 6 picks, but there's only one decent catcher left. Sometimes you got to take the catcher, even though those outfielders are going to be way better, but just because you have more options there. That's kind of the mentality I'm looking at, that if you're not going to get an offensive tackle that's really going to upgrade you outside of the first round, that makes it really hard to pass up on an offensive tackle and go wide receiver when you have guys that might be just below what you got in the first round in the second round. So that's why it's really about how many players you like at a position with how fast you want to pull the trigger. Because to me, last year when they traded up for Broderick Jones, he was the last good tackle from what everyone was thinking about it that was left out there at that time. And that's why you went and got him. Because if you waited where you were, you were kind of going to be out of the tackle market.
Yeah. Bryan, anything to add? We've talked a lot.
Yeah, I think anything else we say right now would be trivial.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. All right.
Good stuff. This was a good exercise. Yeah. Speaking of trivial, great segue. Bryan, do you have trivia tonight?
I plan that. Yes, I actually do.
All right.
And my original one was when I thought about it, it's not that good. So I did to quote Ross from Friends, pivot, and I'm going to pivot here based on the beginning of our show. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to give you 4 all-time great Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm going to ask you what their original number was when they were signed or in camp, and not the one that they were famous for. The first one would be Mean Joe Green.
I know the answer to this one.
Say that question one more time, Ryan.
Jeff.
Mean Joe Green, what was his original number? Not with the Steelers, not one he was famous for.
Was it in the 60s? 70s?
Nope. It was in the 70s.
76. I don't know.
I know it's either 70 or 72.
It is 72.
72. I know it was one of those two.
And I'm going to give you another one. Hines Ward.
I should know this one.
16. I'm just throwing it out there.
Jeff?
I was thinking 18 for some reason. I don't know.
He was photographed wearing 15.
Ah!
There's actually a photograph of him warming up. Let's go ahead, go with Plexico Burris.
Whoa. They changed his number?
Yeah.
See, that was before the rule. They're not allowed to change the first round draft picks number because they want people to buy jerseys right away. As soon as they announce it, because otherwise, any other draft pick, let's say Joey Porter Jr., somebody vacated a number that he liked after like what happened with Joe Green. After the preseason, he could switch before the regular season, but they don't let the first round draft picks do that because of selling their jerseys.
Yep.
But with Plexico, let's go 82.
Jeff?
I was going to go 88.
It is 88.
Nice.
Jeff got it.
Now, you ready for a fun one? Because I have an autographed picture of Cam Hayward not wearing 97.
What?
I have an autographed picture of Cam Hayward, and he is not wearing the number 97 in a Steeler jersey. Wow, I got you on one.
95.
David is 95.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice.
So I'm going to give you one more because I thought of it. And this is a famous one that I've talked about for years. And there was a reason he lost his number. He didn't change it. He lost it because he went away to Vietnam. So Rocky Bleier was not always number 20. His first stint with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he wore what number?
Jeff, I'm going to let you go first.
I don't know. Answer. So go ahead, Dave. What is it?
Because it was when we were talking about this before. It's 26.
It's 26. Do you know the player that went on to prominence with the Dallas Cowboys that actually was the reason he could not get number 26 back?
Oh, we heard this. So, yeah, because he played with the Steelers. It's a defensive back, right?
No.
It's not? Oh. Dang. Huh. I'm thinking.
I'll give you a hint. It's not Drew. His first name is not Drew.
It's not Drew.
I'm looking at the live chat.
I know what it is. Hold on. He's
Live chat's got it.
Okay.
Do they?
Yep.
Preston Pearson.
His name.
Preston Pearson.
That's right.
Drew Pearson also was prominent with the Dallas Cowboys at that same time. That's why I said not true. But yeah, that's my trivia for today. Some fun with numbers.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, Dave.
Well, you guys might have been able to look this up because this was the rest of my question from last week. It was nice because
I was going to do it, but then I forgot.
You remember we were talking wide receivers.
Yep.
And there has been 32 times the Pittsburgh Steelers have had a 1,000-yard receiver. And there's been with 14 different players. Name them.
The 1,000-yard wide receiver?
1,000-yard receiving club for the Steelers.
I thought you were going to pivot and go to running back, actually.
Nope.
Which
I had already given all the info for running back.
14 names. And so this is Hines Ward did it more than once. He's only on the list once.
He's only on there once. But Hines Ward, there you go. He actually did it 6 times.
Mike Wallace.
Twice. Yep.
Antonio Brown.
7 times, Antonio Brown.
Lynn Swan.
What's that?
Lynn Swan.
And we have our first incorrect answer.
Really? He never
Lynn
recorded
Swann
1,000 yards.
never had a 1,000-yard receiving season.
Now, did Stallworth?
Yes, he did. He had 3.
Okay. Go ahead, Bryan. You can name a couple.
All right. Jericho Cottree. He was on that list last week.
He was on the list for the
No.
touchdowns.
Yeah, he had
Okay,
10
so
touchdowns.
well then I'm not counting that. Santonio Holmes.
Okay, so Antonio Holmes had 1 with the Steelers.
Okay. Lewis Lips.
Lewis Lips, how many do you think he had?
I'm going to say 3.
1.
1.
1.
Yancey.
Yancey Thigpen twice.
That was my guy. Love Yancey. Yep. Charles Johnson.
Charles Johnson had 1. Yep.
Barely had it in 1996, but got it. How many do we have?
You have 3. You have 6 left.
And I know we said AB. We've said the usual suspects in the modern era, right?
No.
We're missing guys in the modern era.
You're missing the 3 most recent ones.
The 3. Oh, of course, Juju.
Juju.
Did George Pickens go over 1,000?
Yes. He did this past season. Yes,
Okay.
he did.
That's what I thought.
And Deontay.
And Deontay Johnson.
Okay. So how many do you have left? Is that it?
You have 3 left.
Did we say Plex?
You did not, but he had 2 of them. The
Okay.
other two are pre-merger.
I'm
Dial.
They've both been in the live chat, by the way. Yep. Buddy Dial and
I'm not looking at the live chat. Lynn Shadnoy.
Nope.
Jefferson.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
Oh.
Roy Jefferson. Yep.
Roy Jefferson Hartman.
Roy Jefferson had 2, and Buddy Dial had 2.
Speaking of Jefferson, real quick, can I say something fun?
Okay.
I went to the Nationals Pirates game the other day, and he did not win the race, the mascot race. But when I got my giant soda, I got a Thomas Jefferson. And when I got in the car, my wife said, we're related to him. So my wife and my 2 kids are descendants of Thomas Jefferson, believe it or not.
Oh, there you go.
So
funny story about Nats Park, real quick. This is my final thoughts. I went to see the Pirates play the Nationals. My brother's company at the time had these unbelievable seats down the third baseline. And so it was my turn to buy the next round. I walk up to the concession stand, and there's this whole line of Pirate fans. They're all wearing the same gold shirt with the P on it. They came from Pittsburgh on a charter bus. And so we're standing there, and I'm talking to them about where I grew up and why I'm a Pirates fan, where I live now. And next thing you know, this door opens up, and who comes walking out but Bob Nutting? Now, if you don't know who Bob Nutting is, he's the cheap-ass owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who actually is from Wheeling. His family's from Wheeling and goes to my church that I grew up going to. And so he's standing there, and I'm like, oh, my gosh. I say to these Pirate fans, did you all see who that is? Do you know who that is? And they're like, who's that? I said, are you kidding me? You all came from Pittsburgh. How do you not know the owner of the team? That would be like Art Rooney or Dan Rooney when he was alive, standing there and be like, I don't know who that old guy is over there by the wall. And so I walk up to him and said, oh, Mr. Nutting. And I actually introduced myself, and he wanted to get out of there as quick as possible. I just couldn't believe.
Did you ever see the picture?
There were like 50 people that were wearing Pirates stuff, and not one of them knew who the owner of the team was.
Did you ever see the picture with Nutting, with the kid? I mean, I say kid, he was a teenager, might even been college age. I went to take a picture with him, and it's like the last second open up his jacket because it said "Fire Nutting" on the shirt.
Oh my gosh!
And he took the picture.
I used to work for the Nutting family at a newspaper that they owned.
One of the many.
Yes.
Wow.
So
that's a pretty good story there, Jeff.
I just couldn't believe there's all these Pirate fans there. No one knew that the owner of the team was standing right there in the concourse waiting to get his vanilla ice cream cone. But still,
well, was he getting it in a Nationals helmet? Little plastic helmet.
It was a cone. It was a cone.
I would have enjoyed that. Watching them scoop it out.
Those are Dippin' Dots. All right, let's do some final thoughts. Bryan, go ahead.
I have final thoughts. This was originally going to be my trivia question, but I got all the way back to the 1950s, and I have not seen a year yet where the Pittsburgh Steelers have a completely renovated quarterback room. And that's what you're going to see this year. So when you're looking at this team this year, it's going to be really hard to go ahead and compare much to last year with the way they get out, because a team is steered by the quarterback room, not just the starting quarterback, because there's always a trace of that quarterback. So it's really going to be interesting. This is almost, when you look at it, to me, this is almost a team that has had wholesale changes just because of the quarterback position. It sounds strange, but when you think about it, you can say, all right, all bets are off the table. This is a completely different team.
Yeah. All right, Dave, final thoughts?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the Steelers aren't in on the party that's going on now in our nation's capital, where Pittsburgh has invaded it. Where right now the Pirates are leading the National 7-4 in the bottom of the 8th inning, and the Penguins are currently leading the Washington Capitals 2-0 in the first period. But this is about the Steelers, and most people realize, because we say it so often, that I don't dive into draft prospects like others on our network do. I don't know every prospect. I don't know every little thing like that. Some people love it. That's not me, because I don't care what other teams get. I care what the Steelers get. So when I start looking at players that the Steelers might be interested in, those are the ones I start to pay attention to. But I've said it so many times, and with us being 3 weeks away from the draft, I'm going to say it I'd say one last time, but I'm sure it won't be the last time. I don't fall in love with any prospect. I don't fall in love with them until I'd say when their name is called, but as Bryan knows, we don't wait for their names to be called. We find out who they're drafting several minutes ahead of time.
Yeah, I heard that, Jeff.
-X. So that's when I'll get excited. And that's why I get so excited about the draft, is because I love knowing the new members of the Steelers. I still can't fathom this team. It still feels like it's not that it's still like it's a Madden team or a fantasy team with the Steelers overhauling the quarterback room like Bryan talked about. But man, part of it is I might not want to think about it too much, because then my yearning for preseason games in August and regular season games in September would just be too strong. So, hey, we're on our way. We're getting there. The Steelers will be at the facility voluntarily at the facility within 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it's all starting. Here we go. It's going to be a fun ride. Buckle up.
All right. Love it. Absolutely love it. And we'll be back next week for another Steelers preview. Make sure you check out all of our content, especially on the written side at steelcurtainnetwork.com. And make sure you check out all of our podcasts, like my Let's Ride podcast tomorrow, Friday. Dave's Stat Geek, which was this morning, Thursday. Go check it out. Great episode about Matt Canada and his ineffectiveness. And then Bryan's Bad Language and his Here We Go show with Coach KT Smith, only found on the audio-only feed. So check us out wherever you get your podcast by searching Steelers or Steel Curtain Network. All right, Dave, why don't you send us out like you always do?
Hey.
We'll see you next week. Take it easy, everyone.